Railway history. Unfortunately, much of our railway history is gone and forgotten, but parts of it exist around us in museums and displays. Sometimes it is in plain sight if you know where to look, or off the beaten track. In this series, I will discuss various railway historical events in an effort to help keep our railway history alive. While on a cruise last summer, our ship made a port of call at St. John's, Newfoundland, and lo and behold, they have a rail museum. It's called the Railway Coastal Museum. So briefly, I'll go into a little bit of history about the railway, and then I'll show a slideshow, some of the pictures I took while I was there. The Newfoundland Railway was very unique as it was a narrow gauge railway as opposed to mostly gauge in Canada, which is standard gauge. The Newfoundland Railway was founded in 1880, and as the map shows here, it virtually went across the entire island, from the southwest, from the Port of Basque, all the way to St. John's, with branches to places such as Bonavista and Trepassey. At Port of Basque was where the cargo was loaded onto ships and went between Port of Basque, Newfoundland, and North Sydney, Nova Scotia. Newfoundland was the last province to join Confederation and become part of Canada. They did so on March 31st, 1949, and at that time, the Newfoundland Railway came under the umbrella of Canadian National Railways. They continued to run it, however, as a narrow gauge railway. In order to move the freight between Newfoundland and the Canadian mainland, cargo was unloaded from the trains in Newfoundland or Nova Scotia, loaded on ships, and then, when brought to the port, reloaded back onto the trains. And this occurred all the way from the beginning of the railway right up until CN, or Canadian National, took over in 1949, right into the 60s. And at that time, CN, in order to expedite the transfer quicker, they decided to actually incorporate the car ferries, or rail car ferries. These ferries were multiple use that could also hold automobiles, passengers, and rail cars. In 1965, the MV Patrick Morris was converted to haul railway cars. And then also in 1968, the MV Frederick Carter was added. So CN now had two ships that were capable of carrying rail cars between North Sydney and Port of Basque, Newfoundland. Now the challenge was that you had rail cars coming over from the mainland that were standard gauge to a railway that was narrow gauge. So CN had dual gauge trackage in Port of Basque. And in Port of Basque, they had a locomotive such as the one you see pictured here, an RSC-18, which was standard gauge, and would switch the cars in the standard gauge portion. And then they would change the gauge to narrow gauge, as you can see in the green locomotive here, or green and gold, I should say. And then those cars would proceed along the railway. This became a very slow process, and in the end, what CN decided to do was bring the standard gauge rail cars over to Newfoundland and then do transload to the narrow gauge cars. As truck traffic and highways became more prevalent, CN began to make some adjustments to deal with the declining rail traffic. And in Newfoundland, it was the same. So in 1979, that portion of CN Rail was spun off and became Terra Transport, but still maintained rail services. And on the ocean side, CN had spun off Canadian National Marine portion and called it CN Marine, and then again in 1986 it became Marine Atlantic. In December 1987, an agreement with the federal government of Canada and the province of Newfoundland was that $800 million would be granted to the province for highway improvements, which then would prompt the province of Newfoundland to abandon the railway. And October 1st, 1988, the railway in Newfoundland was officially abandoned. With the abandonment of the railway in Newfoundland, there was only one way to move freight around the island now, and that was by truck. The only vestiges of railway equipment in Newfoundland are found here at the museum in St. John's and other areas along the island, such as Avalon and Lewisport area, where some equipment is still preserved. Unfortunately, it is all static and none of it is operational. One sidebar is that some of the equipment was purchased by the Yukon and White Pass Railway, which had reopened in the late 80s as a tourist railway and thrives today as such. And here in this picture you can see some side dump cars that were converted to the narrower gauge of the Yukon White Pass Railway, and they're still in the CN orange color. So that's it for a brief history on Newfoundland Railway, and now let's watch a little slideshow on my visit to the St. John's Railway Coastal Museum. Thank you for watching an episode on railway history. If you have any aspects of railway history that you're curious about, feel free to reach out to me with your suggestions or questions. Also, if you like this video and are interested in seeing more historical content, please subscribe to my channel.